We begin the new story, which we will call Everyone with Emotional Pain Becomes a Monster. The story starts in a world that has nearly fallen into an apocalypse, brought about by the overwhelming hatred people felt. This hatred drove them to change form and become monsters. They killed each other and fought for power. Meanwhile, our protagonist was the only one who still had a clear mind. But in a world full of hatred, is keeping one's sanity truly a blessing? For 30 years, people could not control their emotions. It became a widespread disease, an emotional illness. The scene shifts to the Sky Art Department gathering. While everyone was having fun, the director, Zhang Yanfei, was furiously shouting at his assistant. He asked why the drinks weren't cold and why the watermelon still had seeds. He angrily complained that his assistant couldn't even host properly. He even told him it would be better if he just died. The assistant, Wu Jingjing, shouted back angrily, asking if he was going to eat or not. She mocked the director and told him it would be better if he died instead. When their colleagues saw this, they shouted at the two, asking why they were fighting at a gathering, saying they were both irritating. Annoyed, the director told them not to interfere. Our protagonist, Chong Mo, a concept artist, stepped in. He calmed the two down and told the director that he would take care of changing the drinks and watermelon. Afterwards, he apologized to Jingjing on behalf of the director. He also asked everyone to calm down. But suddenly, the director smashed a wine bottle on Chong Mo's head, shouting what business he had interfering. Everyone fell silent, almost unable to believe it. The director's face was red with anger, but he gradually calmed down. Realizing what he had done, he quickly hugged Chong Mo and apologized, asking if he was all right. Chong Mo calmly replied that he was fine, as long as the director was calm too. The assistant shouted angrily, calling him stupid and saying he should be taken to the hospital. But Chong Mo refused, insisting that he really was fine. He added that this was such a unique department gathering, so they should just enjoy themselves. Everyone eventually left, while Chong Mo wiped the blood from his head. Suddenly, a woman approached him, Yi Li, who often courted him. She asked if he would just endure all of that. Chong Mo replied that it wouldn't help, and that he was the only normal one in their department. But then he asked Yi Li if she also saw what he saw, that the reason for the director's outburst was the large tumor growing on his head. The woman also had a small tumor. Chong Mo remembered that when he was only 10 years old, he first saw something like this, a tumor on his mother's head. At first, he thought it was just an illusion brought on by his father's death. But from then on, he noticed that his mother was always irritable. Every time she got angry, the tumor grew larger. Until one day, it grew too big and exploded, along with his mother's head. That was when he learned the truth about the emotional illness. From then on, he never allowed himself to get angry again. While deep in thought, he saw that the director was fighting again. He noticed that the director's tumor was close to exploding, so he walked over to calm them down. Yi Li told him that she thought he didn't care whether they lived or died. But before he could get closer, the director's head suddenly exploded. He froze in shock, but something strange happened. The red light, like fire, returned to the director's head, shocking him as the director's face turned into that of a terrifying monster. The director let out a loud roar. Our protagonist was stunned to see the director turn into a monster. When his opponent saw this, he didn't back down, saying he wouldn't be shaken by a mere roar. But before he could react, the director attacked, nearly obliterating the man's head. People screamed in terror and fled. Meanwhile, Chong Mo only stood there seriously, wondering what was happening. Why did Director Zhang's head explode and why did he become a monster? He also wondered why his mother had died back then. Yi Li quickly pulled him away, telling him they had to leave. She explained that when a tumor explodes, the person doesn't die, they transform into an emotional monster. Most people are fully controlled by their emotional monster, using its power to freely unleash their feelings. At that moment, the director burned a man alive with his flames. As Chong Mo ran through the smoke, he asked Yi Li why his mother had died. The woman replied that he shouldn't worry, he would eventually learn the answer. The director roared again, spreading fire around him. But soon after, his head suddenly disappeared, and he collapsed. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Someone said the director's head suddenly exploded again, and the fire vanished. Chong Mo asked Yi Li if they couldn't see what was happening. She agreed and explained that ordinary people couldn't see emotional monsters. Even if Director Zhang transformed, or the monster that devoured his head, they couldn't see it. This was also what happened to his mother. She became an emotional monster, controlled by her own emotions, and was eventually eaten by another monster. Hearing this, Chong Mo slightly bowed his head. Yi Li continued, saying that for those who can control their own emotional monsters, it's easy to find others, because these monsters are linked to their masters. She pointed to a man standing in the center, smiling as he had gained power from eating one. Chong Mo then realized that the person controlling this was Lu Li, their former neighbor. Yi Li said that his old neighbor was now a big shot. In public, he was a vice president of Wave International. But in truth, he was someone who could control his emotional monster. He was also the one spreading the emotional virus of hatred, causing everyone to lose control of their emotions and fall into emotional illness. He waited for them to transform into monsters so he could target and consume them for power. From the start, they had all been trapped in his hunting ground. According to Yi Li's investigation, the first person he targeted was Chong Mo's mother. With this, Chong Mo confirmed that his own mother had been his first victim. His family was destroyed because of that man. He silently listened, trying to understand everything. Yi Li explained that his mother had lost control of her emotions because she was infected by Lu Li's emotional virus of hatred. She died because she tried to control her monster, but it devoured her. His family was ruined, all because of Lu Li. Chong Mo fell silent for a while. Then he said that only those who transformed into monsters were his target, because he wanted to gain power from others. Yi Li agreed. Chong Mo then turned away, saying that he couldn't contract emotional illness, nor transform into a monster. So he believed he wouldn't be his target. Yi Li whispered, asking if he was leaving. Wouldn't he take revenge for killing his mother? Chong Mo answered that Lu Li had supernatural powers, capable of killing in an instant. He wouldn't throw his life away. Besides, all of this was just his own story. Yi Li said he was too calm. But then she asked, how could he have illusions if he didn't have the illness? Chong Mo froze at her words, slightly turning back to ask what she meant. Yi Li explained that she meant he was actually one of the sickest of them all, revealing the massive tumor on his head. But she added an even greater truth, that Lu Li's true target from the beginning was Chong Mo himself. He was the one Lu Li most wanted to transform, and the one he most wanted to consume. Suddenly, someone placed a hand on his shoulder. It was Lu Li. He greeted him, saying it had been a long time, that he had grown up. But Chong Mo quickly denied it, saying he was mistaken. Lu Li only laughed, telling him not to joke. He added that he might be a bit bold, but he wanted to ask for his help. Then, without warning, he kicked him hard, telling him he should at least get angry. Chong Mo was thrown to the floor. His coworkers wondered what was happening. First there was the incident with Director Zhang, and now another man was causing trouble. Yi Li rushed to Chong Mo, asking if he was okay. Holding his aching stomach, he replied that he was fine. Lu Li realized that no matter how much he hurt him, Chong Mo still wouldn't get angry. He thought he didn't care about himself. So Lu Li snapped his fingers, and suddenly the clothes of the people around them ignited in flames. People screamed in terror as they were engulfed by fire. Others shouted in panic, thinking maybe there was a gas leak, urging everyone to get away while someone quickly called the police. As his colleagues burned alive, Lu Li asked if he would get angry now that his coworkers were suffering. He even pointed out that his coworkers weren't that nice to him anyway. Chong Mo remembered one female coworker asking if he was really only 18. She wondered why he started working so young, and even offered to introduce him to her younger sister in college, joking about it afterwards. He also recalled his male coworkers inviting him to eat outside, only to ditch him and leave him to pay the bill. Now, as his coworkers turned to ash, one of them shouted at him to hurry and run. Still, he remained calm. Even as his colleagues fell as ashes to the ground, he didn't move. Lu Li asked what his problem was. Could he really endure all this? He added that he wasn't fooled. He could see the tumor on Chong Mo's head growing larger. He grinned, thinking that he hadn't yet told him the cruelest truth, that he himself had killed his mother. He wanted to see how long he could endure. Chong Mo only knelt in silence, telling himself that he knew he wasn't as calm as he appeared. Constantly surrounded by coworkers who got angry, or strangers looking for trouble, he always wanted to explode and tear them apart. But he couldn't. He understood that this was an illness of emotions. People's irritability wasn't intentional. Their regret and remorse after their outbursts always stayed in his mind. Just like his mother's face, crying and apologizing whenever she got angry. Losing reason and falling into emotion always ended in regret. So he always restrained himself with rationality. Keeping rationality was the only way. But now, he asked himself if he really needed to keep holding back. He screamed inside that he wanted to be a furious monster, to tear Lu Li apart and avenge his mother. That would be good. But he asked himself again and again, why? Why didn't he transform, even though he was filled with anger? Yeli answered, it was because if he transformed, he would die. But Chong Mo replied, if he didn't transform, wouldn't he still be killed? Maybe he'd just go mad and fight anyway. The woman fell silent for a moment, then said it was hard for him to accept what he was now. It was impossible for him to transform. Hearing this, Chong Mo lowered his head and asked why. Lu Li noticed and mocked him for talking to himself. Was he trying to convince himself? He said he'd have to teach him a lesson. He moved closer and began attacking with fire. When Chong Mo heard him say he was talking to himself, he suddenly realized something. He quickly turned to look at the woman he had been speaking to all this time. She began to change, speaking as she did, saying that at last, he had realized. She told him she would no longer rely on him, and explained that from the beginning, only he had been able to see her. Chong Mo's eyes widened in shock as her face shifted. At the same time, Lu Li unleashed a massive fire attack, covering the surroundings in smoke. But what Lu Li saw before him shocked him. A huge monster with dark energy bound in chains. The woman said that the reason Chong Mo couldn't transform until now was because from the moment he first saw her, he was already infected by her. He had already become an emotional monster named Rationality. When Lu Li saw this, his eyes widened in shock. He thought that this emotional monster was bound in chains and its face looked like a black hole. He wondered what kind of emotional monster this was, one he had never seen before. Meanwhile, our protagonist, as he looked at his emotional monster, wondered if it really belonged to him. He could not believe that rationality was also considered an emotion. If he had been infected and transformed before, why was he only seeing it now? And most importantly, he had always thought that his female colleague at work was the one who infected and transformed him. But who really was she? As Yi Li looked at him, she said that she knew he had many questions now, like who she was and what she wanted to do. But she couldn't explain it all in such a short time. For now, the only thing she could say was that the emotion of rationality was the most special of all, because reason could suppress all other emotions, including Lu Li's anger. She also knew he was curious why he had never seen his emotional monster before. The truth was very simple. In this world, you could only see something if you knew it existed. Not far away, as Lu Li observed Chong Mo's emotional monster, he realized it was far from human. It was not a slave to its emotional monster. Instead, it itself had become an emotional body capable of controlling the monster. Furious, he immediately unleashed his fiery emotional monster. He shouted if Chong Mo really thought that a newly transformed emotional monster could defeat him. His monster directly attacked the protagonist monster. But the attack simply passed through. When Lu Li saw this, his eyes widened in disbelief, wondering if he had missed. Even Chong Mo, upon seeing it, questioned what was happening. Yi Li explained that he had not yet fully controlled his emotional monster, which was why it did not interfere with this world. What they were seeing now was only a projection, not really here. When Lu Li understood this, he realized that the young man had not truly controlled his emotional monster because it still remained in the heart of the realm. So, his emotional monster directly attacked Chong Mo. Chong Mo only watched silently. Moments later, the monster bit his head. But Lu Li's joy was instantly replaced with confusion and shock, because Chong Mo's head was not actually eaten. It only seemed to hang from the monster's teeth. Trembling in shock, he wondered why he wasn't hurt, and how this was possible. At that moment, Yi Li explained to Chong Mo that because he often suppressed his anger, his reason had become incredibly strong against the emotion of anger. At this level of attack, all of it felt like nothing more than tickling. Enraged, Lu Li shouted, calling him a bastard and yelling at him not to be arrogant. Then he moved his emotional monster to grab hold of Chong Mo. Chong Mo asked Yi Li what he should do now. Even if the power couldn't hurt him, he still couldn't control his emotional monster. All he could do was endure. Yi Li explained again. The solution was simple. He only needed to let his emotional monster lend him its power. Now that he understood, he could do it. Moments later, Chong Mo's body glowed, shocking Lu Li. Then, his emotional monster exploded. The blast was so strong that Lu Li was almost blown away, wondering how this was possible. Through the thick smoke, Chong Mo's silhouette appeared. And when the dust slowly cleared, his two fingers had sharp blue crystals, releasing small bursts of energy. Lu Li realized that he had borrowed power from his emotional monster. But because of fear, and just from those two fingers, he ran away, constantly wondering how this was possible. For an emotional body that had just transformed, how could he be this strong? But Chong Mo stomped his foot. Cracks formed in the ground, and he dashed forward, nearly catching Lu Li. With every step, powerful explosions erupted around them. People nearby were bewildered, wondering why there were sudden blasts. The protagonist also asked Yi Li why Lu Li could still use his fire powers even though his emotional monster had been destroyed. Yi Li explained that an emotional monster could not be killed easily. It did not fully exist in this world, and only temporarily vanished. During their chase, they exited through a door and realized they were now on a massive ship, the most famous cruise ship in the world, the Sea Emperor. They were in the middle of the ocean, far from the shore of Danghae City offshore. Yi Li came closer and explained that chasing and fighting an emotional body here was an extremely dangerous move. Chong Mo asked why. Yi Li said that according to public information, the Sea Emperor had routes across the world and was currently in Danghae. It was one of the few ships allowed to enter the eastern seas of China. But in truth, this ship was controlled by emotional bodies. Emotions were traded here. There were also various services inside to meet the needs of emotional bodies, including hunting ordinary people. So, fighting here was a direct challenge against the owner of the Sea Emperor. She added that Lu Li was a super VIP guest of the ship. As they ran, Chong Mo asked if the guards here were strong. Yi Li answered that she didn't know how to describe it, so she compared it to an ant and a finger. Even a guard's small finger could kill him. She fell silent for a moment. After a while, Chong Mo asked if it was true that if he didn't kill Lu Li now, he might never have another chance in the future, and he might not be able to withstand his revenge. Yi Li agreed, which made him hasten even more in his pursuit. The scene shifted to the Sea Emperor VIP Lodge, where the VIPs had gathered. At the center of the table stood a strange piece of art. A man spoke, saying he would introduce this artwork to them, created after the death of a sorrowful woman. The skin was peeled away to reveal the bones. But the bones, which should have symbolized death, seemed to smile. The effect was both horrifying and astonishing. What was most remarkable was the material used, a real woman. Not just any woman, but the daughter of the Prime Minister himself. And now, he was offering her as a gift to the Emperor of the Sea, in gratitude for accelerating their cooperation. This man was Victor Li, from Wilderness International. The Emperor was delighted and said he was very generous. Even though his company dominated the market in Stanley's country, he had still sent the Prime Minister's daughter as a gift. This was Lu Yong, the captain of the Sea Emperor. A woman spoke next, saying she had heard before that the Prime Minister did not want to cooperate, but she never expected he would be punished in such a way. For her, this was a horrifying imagination. She was Anna Chris, a member of the Ugly Duckling Self-Help Association. Another woman then spoke. For her, this act was delicious. It was an honor for a woman to be transformed into this kind of art. She was Song Wei Wei, the second miss of the Song family. A man smoking also commented, saying he was curious why attention was suddenly being turned toward the great kingdom of Xia. This old man was Zhao Yan, bishop of the Black's Chain cult in Donghai City. Victor explained that as a group, if they did not advance, they would surely regress. In the midst of fierce competition, he would stir everything up in order to secure cooperation concerning the affairs of the great kingdom of Xia. Suddenly, the captain's subordinate approached and reported that Lu Li had killed the art director of Sky Group. But he brushed it off as a small incident. He felt that Lu Li was once again on a hunt, but this time, his victim had successfully transformed and defeated him. When Song Wei Wei heard this, she was disappointed. She said that it was a pity. If she hadn't long followed that master, how could someone like Lu Li be worthy to hunt at will on this ship? Even Victor was curious about the master she was referring to. Song Wei Wei explained that for everyone's sake, it would be better if they cooperated. Meanwhile, according to the captain, after Lu Li was defeated in his transformation, the talent he displayed was impressive. So he suggested that Lu Li should not be allowed to die. Even if he was useless and clueless, he should be given a chance. But as for the one who had defeated Lu Li, a person with no background, they agreed it would be better to kill him. And so they reached a consensus. The scene then shifted to the deck of the ship. Here, Chong Mo punched Lu Li in the face, sending him flying and crashing into the ground. Chong Mo prepared his sharp claws and shouted at Lu Li that his death was near. Bleeding, Lu Li yelled back, asking if Chong Mo was crazy for trying to kill him here. Chong Mo agreed and immediately launched his attack. Lu Li was forced to stop him, saying he was wrong. He had no other choice, if given another chance to live. He even lied, claiming he knew who killed his mother. If Chong Mo killed him now, he would never find out the real culprit. Chong Mo froze. Lu Li grinned as the protagonist's sharp claws aimed at his eyes. But suddenly, Lu Li thrust his attack, striking Chong Mo in the shoulder. He screamed in pain. Chong Mo asked if Lu Li was the one who killed his mother. Lu Li answered no, that wasn't what happened. At that time, there was an emotional body in an old place. It was secretly infected by the emotional virus, and after capturing a new emotional monster, it infected his mother, causing her to become an emotional monster. But that monster did not kill her. Instead, it helped stabilize her condition and allowed her to undergo the transformation. In truth, she had been forced, used to infect others and turn them into monsters. And yes, he was ordered to kill them. He absorbed the emotional power of these people and strengthened himself. So Chong Mo asked who this person was and where he was. Lu Li did not answer directly. He only said that this person was already a big shot, higher than anyone else. If he found out that Lu Li had been killed, he would also kill him. Lu Li was about to say the name of this unit but stopped himself. He said he couldn't mention it, because if he did, he would never be forgiven. When Chong Mo heard this, he fell silent for a moment. He immediately aimed his sharp claws at Lu Zhao's eyes, saying that if he didn't reveal the name, he would kill him. Suddenly, someone spoke, commanding his heartbeat to stop. Chong Mo felt his heart cease beating, and he slowly collapsed to the ground. Lu Li noticed a man approaching. He apologized to him for being late. As Lu Li stood up, he asked the man if he knew him. The man agreed, saying that the Emperor of the Sea would do everything to serve him. Hearing this, Lu Li chuckled slightly. He tapped his foot on Chong Mo's head, mocking him. If he was so powerful and wanted to kill him, he should do it now. Moments later, Chong Mo slowly stood up again, shocking Lu Li. He quickly retreated behind the man. Even the man was surprised. Chong Mo wasn't dead after all. Looking at his hands, Chong Mo wondered what had happened. Yi Li explained that this was the emotional power of an arrogant emotional body called command. It had given him a direct order for his heart to stop. So he asked Yi Li if this wasn't too exaggerated, if it wasn't invincible. Yi Li explained that this emotional body was on a level twice higher than his. That was why he couldn't resist its orders. If not for his emotional rationality, which countered all emotions, he might already be dead. She said this was an enemy he could not defeat for now. When Changmo learned that this was also a living emotional body, he wondered why he could not see its emotional monster. Yi Li explained that its emotional monster currently remained in the heart of the realm, just like his own. Emotional monsters usually resided within the heart, but theirs existed between the heart and reality, which was why they could be seen. However, once it was deep within the heart, it was difficult to observe. Lu Li grinned and said that Changmo was lucky not to have died yet. He asked the man if he knew what he was going to do, and the man replied that he was very clear about it. So he immediately ordered Changmo to kneel, and his body moved on its own. Changmo's eyes widened at what happened, realizing that he could not resist. Yi Li explained that this was the essence of the arrogant emotional body called command. It inflicted little direct damage, but its effect was hard to resist. The vast gap in their power levels was the reason why he could not oppose it. Suddenly Lu Li stepped forward and slapped Changmo hard. He called him trash and said that even seeking revenge for his mother was useless, because emotional bodies were treated however others pleased. As repayment for what he had done, he said he was willing to reveal the details, the day of his mother's transformation. Changmo's eyes widened at what he heard. As he recalled the times when his mother cooked, Lu Li explained that he still remembered the incident clearly. On that day, Changmo's mother was calm and not controlled by her emotions. She had bought ingredients and cooked her son's favorite dish, tomato stew beef brisket, as an apology for not being able to control her anger. But all of that was wasted, because in the end, her blood spread across the floor, the ceiling, and even into the dish she had prepared. And the most painful part, according to Lu Li, was that Changmo's mother had been targeted simply because of a casual remark he once made, that his next target would be a single mother neighbor. At first, he didn't want to do it because the woman was kind. Whenever he was hungry, she even gave him food. But later, when he saw that Changmo's mother was beginning to lose control to anger, he enjoyed the feeling of power, of seizing another's happiness. Changmo suddenly moved toward him, but the man immediately ordered him not to move, and he stopped at once. He was then ordered to kneel and bang his head on the floor, which he also did. When Lu Li saw this, he said he wanted to do it himself. The man agreed. Lu Li approached Changmo and told him he would give him a chance, so long as he submitted and became his dog. He only needed to bark twice to survive, otherwise, he would die. Yi Li then stepped closer and asked what Changmo would do next. Changmo asked what he could possibly do. Wasn't it Yi Li himself who had made him into an emotional monster, who knew everything about him, about those behind Lu Li, and about the ship? He even asked Yi Li if he had long anticipated this situation. Speaking coldly, Changmo asked what his condition was and said he would accept all of it. Right after, Lu Li stepped on Changmo's head and shouted at him to bark. At that moment, Yi Li smiled faintly and said that all Changmo needed to do was accept his power. Yi Li's hair quickly spread upward toward the sky as a burst of energy erupted from Changmo. He floated into the air, his body trembling, while his face became covered with crystals. He screamed in pain. When Lu Li saw this, he asked what was happening. The man answered that Changmo's emotional power was increasing so much that he could barely control it. Meanwhile, Changmo's presence entered another dimension, floating in the middle of the cosmos. There, he noticed he could no longer feel any emotion. No sadness, joy, shock, or longing. Everything vanished, leaving only calculated thought. Suddenly, he felt a large tumor on his head, and moments later it shattered like glass. Memories returned one after another. The happy times with his mother, playing and drawing, carrying groceries, and her pride in his strength. Following this came the sad memories of his father's death, his mother's repeated anger, and finally, her head exploding, caused by Lu Li. Slowly, the glass covering his eyes cracked and then shattered, bringing change to his eyes, which now glowed gold. He silently observed the transformation of his body. Yi Li spoke, saying it was a good thing, because Changmo had enough anger in his chest to sustain his power. But she also reminded him that reason should only be used at the right moment. If not, he would lose control and become a complete emotional monster. At that moment, the crystals on his face cracked and shattered into pieces in the air. The blue energy overflowed from his body and then suddenly vanished. When Lu Li saw this, he laughed and asked what had happened, thinking the emotional power had disappeared. But the man beside him looked up, his eyes widening, and said that was not true. The power had not disappeared, that was the true strength of Changmo's emotions. And to their utter shock, Changmo's emotional monster grew immensely, larger than the entire cruise ship. The scene shifted inside the ship where people were celebrating, when suddenly a man dropped to the floor. Trembling, he muttered about the kind of power he was sensing. At another dining area, a man eating was startled when the plate on his table suddenly shattered. Shaking, he said what he felt was a worthless yet living emotional being. He said this person was incredibly strong, being able to release such power right here. In his opinion, it was either sending a message to the Sea Emperor, or perhaps declaring war against the entire group behind him. Meanwhile, in the VIP room where the five were resting, they suddenly felt a strange energy. Anna Chris asked if it was world class. Victor Lee replied that it was different, wondering if something world class had arrived. Song Weiwei speculated that maybe it was someone helping the man who came to aid Lu Li, or perhaps it came from the boy. The captain stood and approached the window. He told everyone not to worry. Whoever this person was, or whoever his ally might be, as long as he dared to harm their Sea Emperor, even if he was world class, he would die. The scene returned outside where Lu Li screamed questions, unable to comprehend the level of that power. How was it possible? Was this a joke? The man was sweating in fear, thinking it was impossible, but it was real. Though unclear, he felt pressure coming from the highest place, like a calamity, the same pressure brought by big shots, a world-class pressure. In terror, he shouted for them to run, but before he could, Changmo had already beheaded the enemies and dropped them to the floor. With a serious tone, he said it was too easy. Li asked if killing them that fast wasn't too much. Changmo answered, it wasn't enough. He wanted to kill them slowly. Delighted, Yi Li said his control over himself was impressive. But not to worry, the true fun was just beginning. Changmo was stunned when he noticed beneath his feet were golden roots spreading all around. He followed them with his gaze until he saw an emotional monster sitting on a throne, radiating golden light. He could hardly believe his eyes. Yi Li explained. Wasn't he wondering why the ship wasn't getting damaged despite their battle? Because the ship itself was also an emotional body. This was the ship's true form. In the world of emotional power, what one saw depended on their strength. Without him, Changmo would barely see the true form of this world. This was the power of the Sea Emperor. The captain spoke, calling him a world class who didn't know how to live or die. So he would die now. His cold voice echoed between heaven and earth. Any crime would be punished. All would bow to his command. Any defiance would be paid for with blood. Changmo realized the emotional monsters were chanting in unison, reciting words together. That was why the captain's orders could amplify in power through the chants. The captain continued commanding, forming a massive golden box that suddenly appeared and trapped Changmo inside. I will enforce my decree. The captain shouted. The emotional power within the space grew heavier, and golden swords pierced down onto the box. The captain said he had overvalued Changmo's abilities. From a distance, Anna Chris said the victor had already been decided quickly. That world class lacked experience. Victor Lee added that in truth, the other side had succeeded in releasing a long decree. But Anna wasn't convinced. That emotional monster, she'd never seen it before. What kind of emotion was it? Victor admitted he had never seen it either. But its power was divided. No monster could circulate such power unless it was world class. The captain only needed to keep issuing commands, and in a few hours, they would capture him alive. But suddenly, cracks appeared on the golden prison. They were all shocked as it completely collapsed. Debris flew everywhere as Changmo stared seriously. He swung his hand upward, and immediately his emotional monster raised its swords. Then he swung his hand downward, and all the swords pointed at the massive ship. Surging azure energy exploded, startling the captain. Then came an immense explosion of blue light in the middle of the sea. As the energy gradually subsided, Victor and Anna only watched, while the captain was utterly shocked at what he was seeing. Half of his most important golden construct energy had vanished. He stared at the power enveloping Changmo, like a raging storm, and their fear slowly entered his eyes. He was surprised that he was able to break free from the shackles in such a state, and he wondered if such an emotional monster truly existed. What could he possibly want to do with his ship? Or perhaps, what did he want to do with the group behind him? He fell silent for a moment, then shouted that it no longer mattered what he intended to do. Anyone that dared fight him would die. He called for the guards. In an instant, the massive emotional monster behind him split into many forms of soldiers, attacking Changmo all at once and surrounding him. They also encircled his rationality monster from every direction. But no matter how many rushed in, his emotional monster moved immediately, destroying each one the moment they approached. One strike, one kill. The captain grew uneasy and shouted, "Stop!" Once again. Suddenly, Changmo's body stiffened in midair. Just like what happened earlier at the butler's command, he was completely paralyzed. Before he could break free, dozens of spears violently pierced into his body all at once. Yet to Changmo, it was as if nothing happened. They hardly left even a scratch. With a furious glare, he unleashed an overwhelmingly powerful attack. In an instant, the entire army of soldiers shattered like broken glass. Meanwhile, the other golden soldiers behind him began attacking once more. Before he could move, the captain again shouted, "Stop!" But Changmo's emotional monster directly struck at the captain. The enormous sword was already close to him, and his eyes widened in shock as the massive blade hit him, smashing him down from the sky. Changmo charged immediately, swift as lightning, but the captain was also a skilled warrior. In a flash, he recovered, quickly standing up again and unleashing a cold stare. The same with Changmo, who prepared his blue crystal finger, ready to strike. The captain once again summoned his emotional monster and soldiers. Changmo did not falter. He immediately sent his rationality monster forward to face the enemy. His plan was clear, to let his monster hold the battle while he personally faced the captain. More than 2 minutes passed, and the clash between their monsters remained fierce. But it was clear that Changmo was at a disadvantage, gradually being pushed back. At the same time, Changmo himself was beginning to run out of strength. His breathing grew heavy, which the veteran captain immediately noticed. He thought that the boy's power was weakening, and that victory would soon be his. There was no escape left in the open sea. If he captured him alive and uncovered the truth about his emotional monster, it would be a great victory for the entire organization. Suddenly, Yi Li appeared beside Changmo. She had bad news for him. His strength was nearly depleted. Shocked, Changmo asked what they should do now. Yi Li replied that of course, they would escape. Before he could speak again, the chain connected to his rationality monster suddenly yanked his body upward. Forced to react, he turned away and quickly fled. At that moment, there was only one option left: to jump into the sea. The captain could hardly believe it, thinking the boy had gone mad. He actually leapt in. While floating on the ocean, Changmo was stunned by what he saw. The hidden truth of the world appeared before him. The so-called sea was the lair of a massive ocean monster. But that was not all. Looking back at the city, his heart suddenly trembled. The once familiar city had now become a nest of monsters. There he fully realized, it was not only humans who were afflicted. The sea, the land, the sky, and even the cities, everything was consumed by the sickness. As he gazed upon it, his eyes began to bleed. When he felt the pain, he immediately screamed and clutched his eyes. As Changmo was slowly falling, the captain noticed that his eyes were bleeding. He asked what was happening. Now he understood why. This power was only borrowed. His own being was not enough to withstand this truth. So, the captain used this opportunity while he was about to fall into the sea. He attacked him and said that this boy was already dead to him. At the same time, while Yi Li was holding his eyes, he told him to just close them. Although he could see certain truths because of his nature, this was not what he needed to endure now. Next, he should let him take over his body. The captain's golden soldiers were preparing to kill him. But at that very moment, Yi Li merged with Chong Mo's body. In just a few moments, his emotional monster appeared again. When the captain saw this, he was almost speechless. Furthermore, the great sea monster began to move. So the captain could only scream in fear that the Black Sea and its emotional monster had come under his control. He even questioned how this was possible. The black monster's massive wave struck the captain's entire ship. After that event, a few minutes later, Chongmo reached the shore. While he was coughing, Yeli asked how he was. He answered that he was fine. But suddenly, he was shocked that his glasses were slowly returning. He could not believe what he was seeing. Yi Li said that it seemed to be his subconscious. These glasses were a symbol of his rationality. When his emotions calmed down, his rationality would reclaim it. That was why the glasses reappeared. The protagonist fell silent for a moment. Then, he asked about Donghai City and the object in the sky. What would happen to this world? Yi Li explained that the world was buried under changes in the land, but his level prevented him from knowing the truth. In the news, it was said that Donghai was polluted with oil. But in reality, it was the emotional body that had contaminated Donghai. Years ago, a war brought depression to the world, and it lost control. It turned into dark, sticky water and caused countless aircraft and warships to sink. The face he had seen was the manifestation of depressed emotional bodies. Not only Donghai City, but the entire world was now controlled by emotional bodies. It was normal in Donghai City to encounter a few terrifying emotional bodies, like the emotional monster that appeared behind the ship and within himself. As for the object in the sky, if he was not mistaken, it was incomprehensible, so Chongmo asked what it was saying. Yi Li realized that he had not heard what he said, which meant that he did not have the capacity to understand it at his current level. His soul was not large enough to bear its greatness. If he tried to comprehend it, he feared that it would cause a mental breakdown. So Chongmo asked if this was the truth about emotional illnesses, that emotions were just a small piece of ice from a massive iceberg. Yi Li replied that although he had saved him, he had also shown him the truth of the world, which for a small ant like him was already too much. Dying in the darkness could even be a blessing. He could no longer return to his once peaceful life. Fighting and danger would always be at his side. He said that he was the one who brought him into this situation. So he asked Chongmo if he was angry at him. Chongmo recalled everything that had happened earlier. Then he closed his eyes, and after a few moments, he said no. He appreciated him. He knew he had hidden motives, but he had never felt something as fulfilling as this, like a new life. So could he now tell him who he was and what he wanted from him? Yi Li was surprised. Then he slightly smiled and explained that he was a wandering soul. For many years, he had been roaming the city. No one could see him. No one spoke to him. His rationality and strength were fading. During that time, many of his memories were lost. He had forgotten who he was. The only thing he remembered was his name. He was like a great fire without fuel, destined to eventually vanish. Until he met Chongmo. In the middle of the crowded street, they crossed paths and almost bumped into each other. Chongmo told Yi Li to give him way because he was going to be late. In all those years, he was the only one who ever spoke to him, and the only one who could touch him. He was the only one qualified enough to carry his rationality. If he was a wildfire, then Chongmo was a furnace. Through him, he could preserve himself and avoid death. That was why he approached him, pretending to be his colleague. That was also why he helped him investigate his mother's death. And that was why he did everything he could to protect him from the Sea Emperor. He would do his best to help him obtain everything he wanted. Money, power, status. He would help him with it all. But in return, he had to become stronger. Strong enough to look directly at the secret in the sky. Strong enough to explore the mystery of the heavens. Because the most important part missing from him was the sky. He introduced himself again, saying his name was Yi Li. Today was also his new life. He reached out his hand to Changmo. Changmo paused for a moment and smiled. Then he shook his hand and introduced himself, saying he was Changmo. He said that this was their new life. The scene then shifted to Song Weiwei, who was asking the hooded man beside him if he had found out who that person was. He answered that surprisingly, he had found it easily. He said that his name was Changmo, an 18-year-old artist of the Donghai Skyrim group. His mother had died when he was 10 years old. He suspected that this was Lu Li's doing. According to the company's annual physical examination report, he had remained an ordinary person as of March this year. Song Weiwei could not believe this and said it was impossible since he had fought against the Sea Emperor. Which meant that he was at least a world-class fighter. It was impossible to raise his strength so much in just a few months. He also asked if this young man's power was only borrowed. The man replied that perhaps it was. When he was fighting the captain earlier, his eyes suddenly began to bleed. Perhaps it was because he had seen the object in the sky. If it were truly his power, it would not have been like that. Song Weiwei became interested because he could borrow such power. It was a power capable of controlling the Black Sea. He also asked who was behind him. Then he turned around and said that the captain had ordered them to find information about this young man. The man agreed, so Song Weiwei said to please delay carrying it out. He was not a world-class skincare expert, but staying here too long would affect his skin. Suddenly, the man asked Song Weiwei if he was just going to let this boy be. Song Weiwei replied not to worry, because with the power of their Song family in Daxia, he could not escape. And the one granting him power would also not escape. They must obtain this power for their lord. The next morning, as they were walking in the middle of the forest, Yi Li asked Changmo what his next plan was. Changmo answered that although Lu Li was dead, the person who ordered him to kill his mother was still alive. The man he referred to was the one he wanted to find. Yi Li said that this man might be extremely dangerous. A man hiding in the shadows was not something he could deal with right now. The most important priority at the moment was for them to find a place to stay. If she was not mistaken, the forces connected to that ship were probably searching for them now. His strength was almost depleted at this time. If they were to come after them again, it would likely be their end. She forgot to mention that they had managed to offend the forces behind the Emperor of the Sea. The strange power of his emotions alone was enough to drive many people insane. Suddenly, Changmo froze and shouted, "Ah!" Yi Li asked him what was wrong. Changmo answered that he suddenly remembered. He needed to go to his job now. But at this time, he was sure he was already late. And if his entire project team was erased, then there would likely be nothing left to do. He would not be paid for work that no longer existed. It was a great opportunity that he had wasted. Now, he was considered absent from his job and might be fired and not paid. He even asked himself where he would now get money to live in the future. Yi Li fell silent for a moment as she looked at Changmo. After a while, Changmo spoke again. Only now did he truly feel that his life had completely changed. He could no longer bring it back. Yi Li only smiled faintly as she watched him. Then she said that they had already arrived at the place she had mentioned earlier. Inside this building, they would find people who were not in their right mind. When Changmo saw it, he asked if this was the place where they would stay. Yi Li agreed, explaining that this place was the Donghai City's second mental hospital. He should not underestimate this mental hospital. Although it was somewhat remote, it was an institutional hospital in the city of Donghai that specialized in treating patients with emotional disorders. Donghai City was located in the territory of Daxia State, and the Daxia government was the most powerful force in Donghai City. Emotional beings like him, who could control emotional monsters, would likely be included by the officials and become members of the official organization. There was also a special place here, but unfortunately, he would not be able to see it for now. Yi Li asked him if he remembered a giant emotional monster he had seen in Donghai City when she borrowed his power. One of those was guarding this place. Changmo went to the receptionist and spoke to the nurse there, who told him to wait a while and that they would give him the results later. Changmo thanked him. While waiting on the chair, he thought that this really was a hospital specializing in treating emotional disorders. The doctors here did not have tumors in their heads. What was even more surprising was that even the patients who had tumors in their heads were different. Moreover, these tumors looked unusual compared to what he had seen before. Yi Li spoke, saying that he had truly transformed. As his understanding of himself deepened, his abilities also grew stronger. So whatever he was seeing would also continue to increase. Before, he could only see the tumor of anger. But now he could see other types of tumors. One man's tumor showed that he was infected with the virus of happy mode. This patient could not stop laughing and was always happy no matter what happened. Changmo understood this, but suddenly something caught his attention. A woman behind him asked if he was there to see a doctor. Changmo agreed and asked what her problem was. The woman answered that there was nothing wrong. She just thought he looked normal. After a moment, Changmo asked her if she was not normal as well. She answered, of course, she was normal. It was only her family that had brought her there. She said she had been experiencing extreme mood swings in recent days. Her family worried that something was wrong with her. They had forcibly taken her to the mental hospital. But she thought they only did it to throw away her collections. She continued speaking and said that when she checked online, the Donghai City Mental Hospital No. 2, also called the second hospital, was particularly used to treat patients with severe mental health conditions. According to reports, it was divided into two parts, Area A and Area B. Patients in Area A had more complicated symptoms, while those in Area B had more severe cases that required stricter care. Changmo asked what was in Area A and Area B. Yi Li said she thought that was correct. Area A was responsible for those who had not transformed but had been infected. Area B was responsible for emotional bodies that could transform. So Changmo said to the woman, if that was the case, he asked why she was even there. The woman answered that the reason was if the second hospital refused to accept her, she would need to explain it to her family. The first hospital would probably accept her, but she was not sure if the second hospital would because she could not guarantee that she was not a potential murderer. Suddenly a nurse approached them and called the names Zhang Queen and Li Guden because their results had come out. They suggested that they be transferred to Donghai City No. 1 Mental Hospital. The nurse also called Wang Bing, the man who laughed non-stop. She told him that she would give him medicine and reminded him to always take it on time. When the woman saw this, she told Changmo that did he see that ordinary people with mental illness were not accepted here. Since they looked normal, they would probably just be sent home. Their conversation was interrupted when the nurse called them. She told them to follow her and complete the admission procedures. The woman almost froze and began to sweat, while Changmo only stayed silent. The woman even shouted why this was happening. As they walked, the nurse said that she had not seen patients going to the second hospital for a long time. She said they were very smart to choose the second hospital. The environment there was better than a 5-star hotel. They would live comfortably, with meals 3 times a day prepared by a well-known chef. She worried that they might not want to leave anymore. She even laughed lightly, assuring them that they would rest well there and recover. The nurse's name was Zhou Yang. The woman was annoyed and asked how this was possible. She had been admitted to the second mental hospital now. She even asked if she was really insane. The nurse smilingly asked who among them right now had no problems with their mind. Timely intervention and treatment could prevent serious problems. Changmo glanced slightly at Yi Li and asked if Jackie was also an emotional being because he could not see her emotional monster. He further asked if her emotional monster was hiding in the realm's heart. Yi Li agreed and said that he had not yet developed the ability to see the emotional monster in the depths of her mind. Changmo then asked Yi Li if this hospital could determine whether a person had an emotional body just by using blood. Yi Li answered that if he remembered, it might be because of the instrumental unobservability of the emotional body. In theory, his blood could not be examined by instruments. But how could this go unnoticed? He did not use related instruments to see it. So he did not know either. As they walked, they arrived at a large gate and high walls. On top of it, they saw armed soldiers. When the woman saw this, she was almost frozen in fear. She even shouted that Area B was where the psychopathic killers were. So she immediately grew worried and grabbed the nurse's arm. She said she never thought about killing anyone, so why was she placed in Area B? The nurse tried to calm her down and told her not to be nervous. Perhaps the short video she had seen was meaningless. If they did not make it more exaggerated, how would they get traffic? She told her to just cooperate with the treatment and be well. The woman asked if that was really true. Smiling, the nurse answered that she guaranteed it. But trembling, the woman asked why she was now holding a gun. The soldiers on top of the wall immediately became alert and prepared their weapons. Changmo wondered if they could see the emotional monster of Zhang Jackie. He wanted to know what happened to the patients who were not chosen by the authorities. Yeli answered that they were probably locked up, and if they were dangerous, they would probably be killed immediately. She warned Changmo not to act rashly. When Changmo saw the situation with the nurse and the sniper ready, he fell silent for a moment and immediately approached the woman. He placed his hand on her shoulder, smiled, and told her not to be nervous and to relax. If she became too nervous, she might be mistaken for a dangerous person and be killed. The grip of our protagonist on the woman's shoulder gave her a strange feeling, and the emotional monster on her face began to gradually fade away. Then she slightly turned to Changmo and apologized to the nurse. When the nurse saw this, she thought that the woman's emotional monster had retreated into the depths of her heart. Just a moment ago, it had been completely out of control, and then suddenly it subsided. So the nurse simply let out a sigh. With her thoughts, Yi Li said she couldn't believe that he still worried about the woman's safety and even used the power of reason to suppress her uncontrollable state. Changmo replied that he was only trying to be compassionate. Otherwise, wouldn't he look cold-blooded if he just watched her being killed without a care? He even asked if it wasn't likely that the authorities would absorb a cold-blooded emotional being. But then the nurse gave a signal to the sniper to fire, and a loud shot echoed as the woman slowly fell. Our protagonist silently watched her. While he was staring blankly, Yi Li came closer and told him to at least show some kind of reaction, or was he truly cold-blooded? He immediately knelt down beside the fallen woman, thinking that he had lost himself again and someone else had died. He wondered how many times this would happen, since he still felt nothing. To him, it felt natural. But then he noticed there was no blood, and he thought she might not be dead. Perhaps the bullet was a tranquilizer. So he let out a sigh of relief. Yet Yi Li teased him for his slow reaction. Changmo apologized and said that next time he would pay more attention. As two other nurses carried the woman away, the nurse apologized for the trouble that occurred. She explained that the woman was an unknown emotional being, emotionally unstable and highly dangerous. Upon hearing this, Changmo asked what would happen to the woman. The nurse smiled and replied that they would just be more careful in guarding her. Then he asked if she wasn't afraid now, since she looked calm. She suggested giving him a test, just a few questions. Changmo thought about this for a moment, then agreed. The nurse asked if he had come to the hospital alone for a checkup. Since it seemed unusual, she questioned him about his reason for coming to a mental hospital. Changmo answered that at first, he saw things that others could not, like tumors on people's heads and monsters. Recently, it seemed he had gained a power that was also invisible to ordinary people. He thought that if he wanted to join the officials, he wouldn't need to hide his power. In this case, why not show his value as much as possible? And as for the risks of revealing his strength, he could only endure them. As our protagonist demonstrated the power flowing through his two fingers, he told the nurse that he thought it was just an illusion, which was why he went to the hospital to find out. He asked the nurse if she could see what was in his hand. When the nurse saw it, her eyes widened in shock, then she turned away, saying this was truly unexpected and she needed to report it to her superior. But moments later, the nurse ordered the sniper to shoot him. Before Chongmo could react, a loud gunshot rang out and he slowly fell to the ground. The nurse couldn't believe it and asked what was happening, since she had encountered two emotional body types she had never seen before in just one day. She was terrified of what happened. She told the sniper, Old Lee, that they were finished. Every shot had hit its target. He just laughed and said everyone was working hard. But curiously, he asked why they still had to shoot him in the end. To him, he seemed normal enough. The nurse explained that while he looked normal, he was truly terrifying. She had actually seen the surveillance footage of him before he entered the hospital. Although he hid it well, she still noticed strange flaws in his body language from time to time. Old Lee asked what the problem was. The nurse explained that he had been talking to someone invisible. She thought it was typical of schizophrenia. Right now, he showed only a mild personality. But his other personality was likely extremely dangerous. And his emotional power was a type never seen before. What was more frightening was how he used his emotional power. His emotional monster never appeared, which meant he had already learned to control it. He was a schizophrenic with an unknown emotional power. This was even more terrifying than the woman. They had to subdue him immediately. Then, they would need others to transfer him. But suddenly, Chongmo began to move slowly, which startled her. She stepped back in fear, shouting and asking why he seemed fine. Even Old Lee shouted that the target had returned. So she issued a level 1 alert to everyone. Soldiers started running and took positions above the fence, all their guns aimed at him. Seeing this, Chongmo fell silent for a moment. Yi Li told him that she only wanted him to stay awake. When Chongmo realized the situation, he said that in this case, he would just surrender. While kneeling, he raised both hands and shouted not to shoot because he was surrendering. The nurse was stunned and could not believe what she heard. Even the snipers above could hardly believe it and were speechless. When the tension eased, the nurse said that finally everything was okay. Then she bound Chongmo's hands with chains. She explained that although he had truly received a special power, these chains could suppress all special powers, so now he was no different from an ordinary person. She admitted she had made a mistake about him. As Chongmo looked at the chain, he wondered if it really could suppress all emotional powers. But he also questioned why it felt as though endless power was flowing into him from the chain itself. Yi Li remarked that this was strange, how he was able to absorb the chain's power. She explained that the metal used to make the chain had long been infused with rational emotion. This chain also had the effect of suppressing other emotional forces. It could be a prison for others, but for him, it was a great source of strength. The scene shifted to the Donghai City Emotional Management Bureau. Inside a building, the director, Ku Weiming, happily reported that he had found the person they were looking for. He had admitted himself to the second hospital and had become a patient in Area B. Ms. Song was pleased to hear this news, since the person she sought was now in the hospital under Director Ku Weiming's authority. The director assured her not to worry and said he would personally go there and bring him to her. Then he hung up the call, smiling, saying everything was going well. To him, Chongmo looked good. They could even enjoy themselves before stripping away his power. At that moment, in front of Miss Song, there was a man sitting tied up. His stomach was bleeding, blood almost spreading around him. Behind him were various restraints that were likely used to torture him. She said that she wanted to see his handsome face filled with pain and despair. The scene returned to the mental hospital, where nurses shouted to hold her down and not give up. The woman screamed that she couldn't control herself and that she wanted to know how a handsome man with 8-pack abs looked while bathing. Her head transformed into an emotional monster, and the nurse yelled at her to control her emotions. Nurse Kobayashi of the second mental hospital, terrified, said that Sister Jo would die and needed to be given medicine immediately. Another nurse replied that it should wait. They needed to prioritize controlling the patient through her own will. The woman went wild, repeatedly shouting that she couldn't stop herself and wondered if it was wrong for her to want to see handsome men. Since the situation was becoming uncontrollable, one nurse decided to administer the medicine right away. But in her panic, another nurse dropped the medicine to the floor while rushing, drawing scolding from her colleague, who said she would be held responsible if the patient lost control. The nurse repeatedly apologized in fear. But before they could give the medicine, a hand reached out to calm the emotional monster, telling her that if she lost control and became a monster, she would never see him again. This was Dr. Lu Qing of the Second Mental Hospital. Head nurse Yan Bei of Area B saw this and accused Dr. Lu of interfering, but Dr. Lu simply answered that he believed in Xiaojaki. Moments later, the woman cried out loudly, and when she came to, the emotional monster on her face slowly disappeared. Dr. Lu was pleased and told Xiaojaki that she was impressive and that he knew she could do it. The situation was now under control. A nurse explained that the patient, Zhang Jackie, was always obsessed with handsome men. Her illness began just a month ago, when she unexpectedly met a handsome man. After returning home, she started seeing visions of the man bathing in her house, an imagined creation of her emotional power. This ability, similar to clairvoyance, was temporarily classified as the seventh unknown emotional being of low danger level. Upon hearing this, Chong Mo asked the woman if her family's reason for sending her to the hospital was because she saw handsome men bathing. The woman laughed lightly, excusing herself for laughing. Dr. Lu then approached Chong Mo and told him that this patient often remained quiet and emotionally stable. She sought medical treatment because she could see things others couldn't, possessing powers unseen by ordinary people. They suspected schizophrenia, but she denied it, saying she only wanted to talk to herself. Her emotional ability was to crystallize her hand and release a blue flame. She was temporarily classified as the seventh unknown type of emotional body, with a moderate danger level, and continued observation was needed. Dr. Lu bent slightly and assured Chong Mo not to worry, as he was very stable and could be released soon. But until they fully understood his abilities, he would remain chained. He thanked Chong Mo before moving on to another patient. This patient, Chen Ju, he described as the most troublesome of them all. She had no bad behavior, no negative reactions, and aside from abnormal blood results, looked no different from an ordinary person. But he felt something unusual about her, because a normal person was not like her. She was temporarily classified as the sixth unknown emotional body, with a currently low danger level. But she remained a headache. When Chongmo looked at her, he thought she might also be an emotional being with low IQ, or simply an idiot with emotions. The woman suddenly shouted joyfully that she wasn't a psychopath but had superpowers, specifically the ability to watch handsome men bathing. He then asked if this was heaven, but Dr. Lu warned him not to speak so casually, especially about such matters, because all emotional bodies were psychotic. Some were controllable, but others were not. Furthermore, according to Article 4 of the Emotional Body Secret Management Act, the Great Kingdom of Shah established the Emotional Body Management Bureau to handle all emotional bodies across the nation. Their hospital was a subsidiary of this bureau, specializing in treating emotional bodies to ensure they wouldn't harm society. When Chong Mo heard this, he asked if emotional bodies needed to follow state management. Dr. Lu confirmed this, saying proper treatment was necessary. If one committed any crime outside, they would be violating Donghai law. And if the Donghai City Emotional Body Management Bureau came to arrest someone, they would not be as kind as them. Survival would already be considered lucky. He admitted he wouldn't be able to protect them from such a force and asked if they understood. The three shrank back in fear at what they heard. Dr. Lu added that if they were interested in the emotional body management method, they could simply ask the nurse. Then the nurse suddenly called out to Dr. Lu, urging him to follow quickly. Dr. Lu asked what the problem was, but followed anyway. Once he left, the three were left lying quietly in their beds. Chong Mo remarked that Yi Li wanted him to join the official organization of Donghai, referring to the Emotional Management Bureau of the Great Kingdom of Shah. Yi Li agreed. Chong Mo found this impressive, as they even had secret methods of emotional body management. He read from the 7th article of the Emotional Body Secret Management Act, which documented everything about the Emotional Body Management Bureau, the treatment of emotional beings, and obedience to laws. Chong Mo pondered whether he should really follow the secrets of the emotional body management method. Emotional bodies were not supposed to break the law, so why was Lu Li still free? Yi Li answered that, of course, fairness and justice should prevail. But surely there were secret deals happening behind the scenes. Lu Li's freedom obviously meant involvement from high officials in the Emotional Management Bureau. How deep this went, no one knew. Chong Mo asked how Yi Li knew Lu Li was the one who killed his mother. She replied that the police had long suspected Lu Li, but the case was transferred to a secret department, and the investigation was discontinued. That secret department was, of course, the Donghai Emotional Body Management Bureau. Chong Mo realized that behind Lu Li was likely a senior executive of the bureau, and since the hospital was a subsidiary of it, they could be in danger here. Yi Li confirmed his thought. Hearing this, Chong Mo questioned why they came here at all. Yi Li, smiling, said she couldn't remember the reason since she had lost her memory before meeting him. She reminded him that even if dangers were present, he needed to take risks, which was why she let him come. Now that they were here, the only thing left to do was to absorb the chain's power. For now, he should just trust her before his memories vanished completely. The scene shifted to where Dr. Lu placed a hot cup of coffee on the table. He told the director not to rush. The director picked up the cup and slowly drank, but suddenly hurled it violently to the floor. Seeing this, Dr. Lu trembled and asked what was happening. The director, furious, demanded to know the problem, saying Dr. Lu didn't even understand. He tossed papers at Dr. Lu, ordering him to look and decide what they would do. Two nurses overheard the conversation outside the door. One remarked that the director was always angry whenever Dr. Lu came in. Another wondered why the dean didn't care. A nurse explained that dean could do nothing, because this director remained their boss in terms of position. They funded the hospital's operations, leaving dean no choice but to avoid interfering. Now Dr. Lu was the only one meeting him. Though this man acted respectfully toward dean, he was usually harsh with Dr. Lu, who trembled in fear every time he saw him. The director stood and told Dr. Lu that last night this man attempted to kill the Sea Emperor, and this morning he escaped into their hospital. His hospital had actually processed his admission paperwork. Did Dr. Lu not realize the power behind the Sea Emperor? Did he not know this man was a murderer? Did he not know this was a diplomatic incident? The director sighed heavily and firmly ordered him to hand over the man immediately, warning him not to blame him for being harsh otherwise. To the director, this seemed easy enough. But at that moment, he thought it sufficient to make Dr. Lu tremble in fear. Suddenly, though, a bloody palm strike landed on his shoulder. But when he looked, nothing was there, making him think it might be an illusion. Moments later, streams of blood poured over his body, then vanished. He looked around in confusion, wondering what it was. Soon after, it seemed like blood was raining down in his vision, flooding everything around him. All he could see was blood everywhere, even beneath his feet. Slowly, Dr. Lu rose and told the director, "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" "No, I really am afraid. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself from killing you." The chapter ends here. Watch out for our upcoming uploads. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll always be updated on our future videos.